Tonight, we're tiptoeing through our quiet episode. Pray silence for the tight-lipped Jimmy Carr. The soundless Sarah Basco. The muffled Andrew Maxwell. And the unspeakable Alan Davis. And their buzzers are all appropriately quiet. Jimmy goes.
Quiet!
Sarah goes.
Quiet!
Andrew goes.
Will you be quiet?
And Alan goes.
Oh, do shut up.
Now, how long before a silence becomes awkward? OK, it's about now, I think. I think it's about...
That could have been the whole...
It was horrible, wasn't it?
I think it's really awkward when you can hear your own stomach gurgle, especially if it's a gig.
Yeah.
That's always a sign, oh, this isn't going my way.
Yeah, that's not a good sign.
I think comedy is quite a lot like sex, that if they haven't made a noise for a while, change what you're doing.
You could say that about parenting as well, actually.
Yeah. 2011, the University of Groningen, which is in Netherlands, discovered that a pause in conversation becomes awkward after 4 seconds.
Oh.
And after that, people start to feel anxious, they feel rejected.
I don't know, I read a really interesting thing by... it's an American research company called the Love Lab. And they basically looked at thousands and thousands of couples over the years, and they came up with a theory on call response. If you're sort of having a silence with someone, with your partner, you're looking at the paper and you go, oh, and they don't go, what? Then it takes like 7 good things to make up for that one bad thing, because people feel so rejected by that.
It's exactly that. It's about feeling rejected, because the reason that we like good conversation is it helps us feel good about ourselves.
We get dopamine, don't we? Like, teenage girls who stay on the phone for hours and hours have really, really high levels of dopamine, like they've, like, completed a PhD.
I always think, like, as comedians, we're like drug dealers. The drug we deal is endorphins, and you've already got them on you. We'll just help you release them.
Did the Irish mind silence, Stanley?
Well, it's never happened.
No.
We have yet to meet the awkward moment. I suppose after about 4 seconds of silence in Ireland, you'd bring in a wink at least.
Yeah. Just to keep things moving along.
Or, you know yourself.
Yeah. And a bit of pointing, maybe. You know?
Oh, yeah. There he is, over there.
It's good, those phrases that kind of break the silence that don't really mean anything. Like, when I spend a lot of time in Ireland, and it's always fair play to you.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean anything.
Well, it means fair play to you.
Some cultures have a different attitude. The Japanese have a concept, something called harage, and basically it means belly talk. And the idea is that you use a prolonged silence in business negotiations. And they're content with an average silence of about 8.2 seconds, so twice as long as we are. So I think it's very much a cultural attitude to it.
Maybe that's why, especially in dating, you do feel the silence a lot, because usually the instinct is, he's awful. A couple of bottles of wine and 2 years later, there you are.
Let's buy a flat.
Yeah.
Well, isn't that the theory? When you look at someone, you either want to kill them or you want to...
Yeah, if you're looking someone directly in the eye, it's either kind of sexual or aggressive after about 3 seconds. It's one or the other. You can't...
Not both?
It's not neutral, Alan.
Oh. That's sexual.
Too easy! How about if I do it? Just aggressive. But I was thinking about the dopamine thing that you said, you know. One of the things that we now know is that particularly talking about ourselves triggers these neural rewards in the brain.
Talking about yourself?
Talking about yourself, and the subjects who were in this study were even offered money, and they turned money down in order to carry on talking about themselves, and apparently they still felt good, even if they knew nobody was listening.
What talking to yourself is like.
Yeah.
Talking to yourself commonly in the bathroom. Sometimes my kids walk past and go, who are you talking to?
What do you talk about in the bathroom, Lynn?
How to get out.
There you have it. Scientists have found you can't even pay us to shut up about ourselves. What's the one sound you really can't ignore?
Oh, baby's crying.
I think that is true for... is it true for boys?
I was going to say Wu-Tang Clan.
What is that?
Wu-Tang Clan, Killer Bees on the Storm.
Wu-Tang Clan, you know.
Method
RZA.
Man. RZA, Method Man. Ghostface Killer.
You know Ghostface Killer, Sandy.
Keep going till we get to Gangnam Style.
Gangnam Style, I knew you from somewhere.
I would say our fridge makes a noise if you leave the door open.
I never hear the fridge until the noise stops.
That sounds like a trailer for a horror film.
The silence of the fridge.
on your head.
Yeah.
Everything I own warns me all the time. I used to have a microwave. When it stopped, it went ping. And now it goes beep, 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 beep.
Is it reversing?
Beep, 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 beep. But it keeps reversing forevermore, until there's a power cut.
Do you think the people making white goods for your house have seen you on this show?
My car bleeps. If I'm in reverse, it bleeps. And if I'm near something at the back, it bleeps. It does a different bleep if I'm near something at the front.
Who's
It's
letting
got
you
3
drive?
bleeps. And then on top of that, my wife's next to me going, this car's making too much noise. And all the kids going, oh, what's all this bleeping? Shut up! Shut up! I can see nothing behind! I can see nothing in front! I know I'm in reverse! I put it in myself!
Sadly, on his 234th show, Alan Davis had a complete breakdown.
The dopamine, I just had the dopamine.
Everyone heard you. Yeah.
Anyway, I wasn't talking about any of those things. Technically, we are talking about the one sound a child cannot ignore.
Oh, ice cream van.
No. It's the sound of a woman's voice, is what we now know. So children tend to sleep through fire alarms and so on. They tend to sleep through them. It's partly because they sleep more deeply.
I read about this, so they
Okay.
were going to have a smoke alarm that had a voice coming out of it if it was in a child's bedroom.
Absolutely right. There is a really strong response to a maternal voice, and that is why there's going to be a new kind of smoke alarm with a female voice. So they've been testing them. I don't know if this would do it for me. It was a woman's voice going, "Wake up, the house is on fire."
No, you want a bit more urgency.
I think that might be better than the alternate. My mother was an incredibly sweary woman. And I think if she'd recorded a fire alarm, it would have been just filth. It would have been like a pirate was doing it.
Dundee University, working with Derbyshire Fire and Rescue, they tested smoke alarms in 2017 on sleeping children, and it is astonishing, the difference. The woman's voice will wake the child up 86 to 91% of the time, whereas a tone alarm just over 50%. Apparently, incorporating your child's name into the recording makes no difference whatsoever. Call a little girl Frank, and they wouldn't make any difference.
I think if you use your child's name, that's when they ignore you.
Yes, that is.
They hear their name and think, uh-oh.
Yeah.
Why that thing when they use your full name? If I was ever referred to as James, it would, oh, I'm in a lot of trouble.
Yes.
What are your middle names?
Anthony Patrick.
Did they sometimes use the lot? Then you're really in this shit.
I think that's called a judge. You're in court. James Anthony Patrick Carr.
You are a habitual criminal.
You've been caught once again.
No signs of remorse.
Now, what's the most dangerous thing to do in bed?
Tell the truth.
Anybody else?
Reverse cowgirl? They had that locked and loaded?
There was some suggestion you might say that, darling. Is it a particular favourite?
Yeah, how did they know?
So we're looking at the past. We're looking at particularly the Victorian era, so something that is dangerous to do in bed in the Victorian time.
They would have had candles and things to light themselves to bed.
Yep. Exactly
gas
right.
lamps and things.
Candles in particular.
Oh, candles. Yeah.
Why would you take a candle to bed?
Is it
To
reading in
read?
bed?
To read, yeah, reading, The Silent Killer. It's not thought to be a good thing at all because it was burning as you drifted off.
Yeah.
There's a most fantastic summary of fires in London from 1833 to 1866. So in those days, all fires were dealt with by the fire insurance company and they kept meticulous records. So here's a quick snapshot of 19th century London life. One death from a fire caused by a jackdaw. No details provided, that's it. Don't know what that was. Another caused by a monkey. 2 attributed to smoking in bed, 3 to sewing in bed. Anybody?
Yes.
12 to lightning, but the figure that tops all of these is 34 lethal fires caused by reading in bed. In fact, exactly equal by the number of fires started by cats. Another common hazard in the 1800s is, of course, Christmas trees. Now, I dispute this. In those days, Christmas trees were lit with real candles.
Yeah.
Now, I am Danish. For the last 60 years, I've had Christmas lit with real candles, and so far, not a flicker of a fire. Just don't set the tree on fire. It's not complicated. But apparently, it was so great a risk in this country that insurance companies refused...
So you've got the candles on the
Special
tree?
candle holders that hook onto the branch like that, and you just make sure, when you put the candle on, that there isn't a branch directly above. That is the key to it. Honestly, I've never known this to happen, but insurance companies refuse to insure people against this particular thing.
So I think as long as you remember to take the jackdaw out at night.
Yeah.
Perhaps not. The lack of a jackdaw is why we've been so successful so far.
Has anyone ever done a poem about jackdaws and backdoors? Because if they haven't, I'm going to do one before the end. It's really bothering me that it sounds so like a backdoor.
You're right, the jackdaw and the back door does sound like some kind of
They
reverse...
go together.
Yes, they do. Right, you do that. We'll do the next question on our own.
Jackdaw, backdoor, Lackmore, smack-whore. That's what I've got to. Seashore, seashore. Crack-whore. I'm thinking crack-whore is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, what about bee-paw?
Beating a bee-paw? No, it's got to be...
Why am I joining in?
She sells seashells down by the crack hall. Here comes a jackdaw flying in the back door.
You carry on, darling.
Never been happier. Dopamine, dopamine.
Dopamine.
Hacksaw. Oh, my goodness. Hang on, I'm looking at Jimmy Tax Law.
In all fairness, I don't pay tax either, but I don't get caught.
Right. What would you hear at the most peaceful place in Britain?
I reckon dogging. Honestly, they're ruining the countryside.
We've got rights.
You've also got houses.
I think the answer is builders.
Builders.
Builders. Because that's what happens in all the most beautiful places of the land. All you can hear is builders.
Well, that is not the case because we are looking at the most peaceful spot in Britain. It's been officially declared the Campaign to Protect Rural England. It is a region of Northumberland National Park. It's been left alone since 1911. 23% of this national park is owned by the MOD and is used for military training. So, remarkably quiet unless a tank is going past. Yeah, or they're firing things at you.
There's one of them down in Lulworth Cove in Dorset, where there's a tank firing range, and there's massive traffic signs that just say, "Warning, sudden gunfire." I mean, I don't know about how the rest of you live, but all gunfire is sudden for me.
Yes.
I always wondered with that sign, it's a triangle with falling rocks, and it just says falling rocks.
Yeah.
That might as well just say, be lucky.
Well, while you're driving along doing that, that's when you hit things, isn't it?
You'll get little beeps just as they come just above your car.
There won't be a beep. That's the annoying thing. There'll be no beep for
You ain't got
that.
a beep
There
up
won't
there.
be a roof beep.
Hey, does anybody else, when you go through one of those, you know, the height inhibitor into a certain car park, you're in a car and you know you're going to fit into it, but do you?
Yeah.
I'll tell you what my one is. I'll be driving along on the motorway, and there'll be fog, and I'll drive like that. Just in case the fog is in the car. There's a big sign saying fog. If you can see it, it's not that bad, is it?
Now, how do you quell a carnivorous plant?
By quell, so do you mean sate it or stop it wanting?
Stop it being able to actually function. So let's have a quick look.
okay.
Let's have a look at a Venus flytrap, OK? So you know the theory behind the Venus flytrap.
Fly
is that-
away! Fly! From
Fly.
your life! Fly!
Have a look at a video of it actually functioning, because it is the most extraordinary thing. So watch it just closing up now. So there is the fly. I mean, it's creepy,
Yeah.
right? But if you wanted to make it stop working, you would anaesthetise it exactly as you do human beings. So you can gas them with ether, you can swab the roots with lidocaine, and what'll happen is it'll just stop working. The fly will land there, but the thing won't close down. And it is found that the electrical impulses in the plant have temporarily dropped to zero. It is exactly the same effect as what happens to us.
So a plant would be exactly the same reaction to an anaesthetic as a human.
Yes, exactly. We don't entirely know how anaesthetics actually work. We do know that something like lidocaine works by stopping local neuron signaling to the human brain, but it also seems to work on plants. And the truth is, we don't really know how anaesthetics work. Can I just show you something which I hadn't seen before, but maybe you have? I'd never seen a Venus flytrap in flower, and actually they're rather beautiful, because you only ever see it when it's looking sort of slightly vicious. But isn't it rather lovely?
That's terrifying.
I think it's rather beautiful. They gassed all sorts of other plants as well. The effect is the same. They all just went straight to sleep.
Has anyone asked why they're up to this?
We're trying to work out how anaesthetics work.
It wasn't like a group of flies.
No, it wasn't.
Something's not done about these guys.
Yeah.
One of the interesting things that they found out really recently about pain in the brain is that if you think about colours, it distracts your brain from the part of your brain that's getting the messages about being in pain. So it's something quite good if you don't have any pain relief, if you think about colours one at a time.
Yeah. People with hypermobility, so double-jointed
yes.
people, appear to be resistant to sort of topical creams and to being injected to local anaesthetics. That is... I know, that's quite strange, isn't it? 3 times more likely a hypermobile person to report that local anaesthetic is not effective.
I know
Again,
you're still talking, but I can't stop looking at that.
He does
I'm
these-
aware you're speaking, but who cares?
He does these
Wow.
amazing YouTube yoga tutorials.
I can't help feeling, I mean, I know it's just a story, but I think a radioactive spider's been involved there.
in general, whether you're animal or vegetable, anaesthetic will put you to sleep. Now, who would use a Quaker gun?
Oh, well, not a Quaker. They're famously pacifists.
They are famously pacifist, and so is the gun.
It's to scare something away, then.
Yeah, look at that
Rather
gun.
than hit them.
It's just a log painted to look like a gun.
Oh, it's like someone has it in the jacket, has the gun in the jacket, and they go, yeah, I've got a gun.
Yeah.
Have you got a gun?
So during the American Revolutionary War, for example, in 1780, there was a Colonel William Washington, and he managed to convince a loyalist commander and 120 of his followers to surrender from their barricaded barn by pointing a painted log at them. Just a pine log.
That must be a terrible way
Yes, you must feel
to
awful.
lose a battle. Just,
Yeah.
No, I didn't have a gun after all.
Just killed off by the Arts and Crafts Army.
The Americans did it as well in the Second World War. So the Mitchell B-25 bomber did not have any guns at the rear, so they just painted some broomstick handles and stuck them at the back. So the Japanese thought, I better not come from behind because they've got guns at the back.
We did the same thing here. We had inflatable tanks all
That's
along
right.
the south coast.
The Allies had inflatable tanks, and they used them in North Africa to confuse the Nazis.
I don't know they were inflatable, Danny.
No, they were literally, they were like...
Like a bouncy castle.
Yes, yeah. And to show that they had a sense of humour about it too, the Germans dropped wooden bombs on them.
Well, I knew that we had fake stuff, but I did not know that it was made... I mean, honestly, like you just...
Yeah,
Yeah, like a girlfriend.
I think, darling, that they were made of canvas, if I'm honest with you.
still pretty funny for a Nazi to send like a wooden bomb back. Just there back at the base, just coughing away. It's going to be funny.
Don't do that accent with that haircut. not good. Either one is fine, but when you combine them, I feel it's dangerous.
And now, it's time to whisper our way through the calming quietude of general ignorance. How good are you at multitasking?
Excellent.
Excellent. OK.
Here
we go.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was going to be tested on.
Just volunteered yourself, OK? So I want you to take this stack from here and recreated exactly the same on this one, and you can have to move them one at a time, OK?
great.
But while you're doing it, I want you to recite the alphabet backwards.
Well, I can't do that anyway. I mean, I don't think I can do it forwards, like. A, B...
No, so you don't understand how the game functions.
We're going to find out that Andrew's a toddler.
Just took them off and put them on the counter.
A, B, C...
Backwards, though, is it?
I can't do it backwards.
You missed it backwards.
Andrew,
And put them on the middle one.
Andrew,
All right, OK.
listen to me.
Right on.
Start again.
This is more annoying than my microwave.
OK, here we go again.
Z, Y,
Keep them on the post.
backwards.
X.
Move them one at a time.
No, middle one.
What's wrong with
No,
this?
don't help him. I love this, because as I said...
Z, Y, X, W... V... U...
Don't pretend you could do this.
So why did you say that you are good at multitasking?
I'm a man and I like to brag.
What they found is doing tests at Stanford University, people who consider themselves to be good at multitasking actually do worse at performing multiple tasks than people who prefer to focus on things one at a time. It's one of those strange things. But anybody else think they would be better at it?
I mean, than that, yeah.
Go. The fact is that what we now know is that the brain is pretty much incapable of focusing on more than one thing at a time.
Yeah.
If it requires a level of thought. I mean, walking you can do and do something else at the same time. But the task that...
I did a course years ago in neurolinguistic programming, and the idea was that your conscious mind can hold, like, 5 things in it. So if you think about how do my feet feel at the moment in these shoes, how's my breathing, and you think about what I'm having for dinner this evening, and then the first thing's gone. You can't remember how your feet feel in the shoes, because your conscious mind doesn't do that much, but your subconscious mind. So doing 2 things at the same time.
Automatic
If it's done
things,
by
yeah.
your subconscious mind, then yes.
Yeah.
If it's breathing and walking.
It depends what the thing is. So singing, which is an auditory process, is easy to combine with riding a bicycle because that is a motor process. And they utilise different brain processes. It's when you've got a thing that really requires single focus. It's called a bottleneck.
Like voting.
Yes, exactly like that, like that. When you're multitasking, what your brain's actually doing is switching backwards and forth very fast between the tasks. So really, it would have been better off to do it one at a time.
So why is that thing about men not being able to multitask and women being able to?
No, but it's kind of reverse sexism, that essentially it was invented by men to go, no, you should do all the housework because you're able to kind of, like, look after the baby and do the dinner and keep the kitchen clean.
It's like ads, you know. The ad is always a massive suburban house, and the husband can't put in a light bulb.
Yeah.
The amount of ads that over the last 34 years is always, oh, George. Oh, he's useless, isn't he?
Yeah.
Anyway, buy this.
But yeah, and also it is insulting to
There is
men.
no
Yeah,
consensus
no.
at all as to whether men or women are better at multitasking. But multitasking actually causes a temporary 10-point decrease in IQ. It's about the same as smoking marijuana or missing a night's sleep if you try and multitask. You're much better off doing things one at a time.
Yeah.
It seems there's no such thing as a multitask master. Right, everybody gets a banana. I want you to show me how a wild monkey would eat this, please.
Oh, I reckon I know this.
I know.
Yes. Oh.
Upside down.
Oh, there you go.
I think monkeys in the wild don't, in fact, eat bananas.
Oh, because they don't have access
It's-
to bananas.
It's like the way polar bears don't eat penguins.
Penguins.
Yeah.
Because they don't like chocolate biscuits.
You're absolutely right. Wild monkeys do not eat bananas at all. Why is that?
There are no bananas in the wild.
Correct, absolutely right. It's a domesticated plant, the edible banana.
And there's only one left, isn't there?
What, banana?
No, one type of banana. There was
Right, it died out.
Yeah, it died out, and there was one place that had them, and then now it caters everyone.
Well, there are some bananas that grow in the wild, but they are not particularly...
A banana plant takes 9 months to grow.
Yeah.
9 months to produce a bunch of bananas, and then that's it. For
And it's technically a herb.
These are all correct facts about bananas. But the wild banana is oval, it's not remotely sweet, it's not particularly edible. Monkeys do not tend to eat them. They do like to eat them in the zoo. Let's see how... there's a monkey eating it in the zoo. They seem to eat it anyway. They bite into it, they pierce the skin. He just wants to get it down him, doesn't he? He just doesn't really care. They do love human-engineered bananas. They've been known to raid plantations. They are actually seen as a bit of a pest. But Paignton Zoo in Devon has stopped monkeys from eating bananas now because they're too sugary and they cause gastrointestinal problems. Right, moving on. What did the first sneeze sound like?
A tissue.
No, not that.
No, not a chew.
No.
Chew is different.
Yeah.
A tissue is different from a chew.
Okay.
Not having that. You've pressed the wrong
No,
button.
I think everything about sneezing...
Tissue. It's not the same as chew. That's a different sneeze.
OK.
Everything about sneezing is adorable. The way that people, their eyes kind of glaze over like they can't concentrate for a second.
The worst thing is when it goes away. When you think you're going to sleep and it goes away, you've been robbed of it.
He'll be back and it'll be even stronger.
I don't think you make any noise when you sneeze. I think it's a socially learned thing.
You're absolutely right. It's an affectation.
Is it?
So you could go, Yahoo!
Yeah. Well, deaf people who have never heard the affectation do not make the sounds that the rest of us make when we sneeze. So a tissue or a chew, or in German, hatschi, hakshon in Japanese, the Filipino is hatsing, the Polish say apsik. We all have a noise that we make, but we've learnt to make it. Apparently, if you have never heard a sneeze before, what it actually should sound like is a heavy breath as the deep pre-sneeze breath is taken, then a sharper, faster sound of air being released. But we make that noise because we think we're supposed to. It's what a sneeze sounds like.
That's a great
It's a
fact,
really
isn't it?
great fact.
Yeah. The record for the longest fit of sneezing belongs to a British woman called Donna Griffiths. She began sneezing on the 13th of January in 1981, and she had her first sneeze-free day 977 days later. She sneezed an estimated 1 million times.
Worked in the pepper factory, I believe.
Just be clear, that's not her, OK? That's just a very nice random person.
Stock image
Stock
sneezer.
image of person sneezing.
Yeah. So, and at school, did you have that thing where everyone was like, if you sneeze 8 times, it's the same as a whole orgasm? Did you?
No.
No. That was the thing at school, just like, oh, 3, 5 more.
Yeah.
5 more.
I think when you orgasm, I think it's nice to say, bang goes the dynamite. Or whoopsie daisies.
It's really time to finish.
That also works.
It's the most fantastic game which is played on I'm Sorry I Haven't a Clue, which is coming up with sentences that work both in the kitchen and in the bedroom. So things like, oh, it's a bit dry, do you have any cream? I prefer your mother's, that kind of thing.
Do you fancy a roast this Sunday?
That's it. Just stick it in for 20 minutes and I'll get you the free garlic bread. All of which leaves us clamouring for the scores. And I can tell you, in 4th place, with -2, which I think is very creditable, it's Alan. In 3rd place, with -1, Sarah. In 2nd place, with a full 3 points, Andrew. In 1st place, with 7 actual points, it's Jimmy. Right, it's thanks to Andrew, Jimmy, Sarah and Alan. I leave you with this quick quotation from Mark Twain. I thoroughly disapprove of duels. If a man should challenge me, I would take him kindly and forgivingly by the hand and lead him to a quiet place and kill him. Good night.